Good evening, my name is Abdussalam Hussein, and today I will be talking about some current environmental issues and how humanity can fix them. I don't know if you noticed, but the Earth is hot and has been getting hotter for a very long time. In fact, the problem of CO2, carbon dioxide emissions, are related to the issue of heat increase in the atmosphere. In other words, the more carbon dioxide that is in the atmosphere, the hotter/less oxygen is in the atmosphere. In result, not only will it become hotter, but it will also become harder to breathe due to the lack of oxygen in the atmosphere. A writer for the Green and Growing organization writes, "The burning of fossil fuels, coal, gas, and oil causes the Earth's temperature to go up significantly." Following the statement, they say that if the great ice cap covering Greenland would melt, it would add another 7 meters, 20 feet, to the world's oceans. So to put that into perspective, a city such as Miami that is close to the coastline near the ocean, if they are above sea level at a number that is anywhere below 20 feet, then they would sink in this circumstance. With that being said, problems occurring from increased heat levels include farmers' crops beginning to wither and die. Amina Khan, a writer for the Los Angeles newspaper, says, "In a time of climate anxiety, 2019 was the second warmest year since scientists began taking temperatures in 1880. Now, why is excessive heat so dangerous? And maybe what can you do to stop the dangers of it? So, excessive heat becomes dangerous more if it lingers for more than one day, right? Hot days and warm nights don't give our bodies time to cool down. Therefore, if heat islands intensify, it can cause breathing problems, heat cramps, heat stroke, and may even lead to illness or death. So, what can you really do about this? Brett Kugelmass, a writer for the USA Today newspaper, says, "The only energy source capable of powering atmospheric carbon dioxide removal, or truly negative emissions, is nuclear energy." So that is one way that we can sort of look forward to remove some of the carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere, is by nuclear energy. So as we see here, there are other effects that heat has, such as the effects of heat on water. The effects that heat has on water, also known as evaporation, is very detrimental to humans because when water evaporates from heat, then it turns into vapor, and vapor cannot be breathed in. If vapor is breathed in by humans, then it will become difficult for them to breathe. They might choke, they might die, and as we know, we can't breathe in water vapor. And to have a natural resource such as water being burnt, literally burnt from high temperatures of 212 Fahrenheit, it would not be good for the human race. So let's read some of the effects that heat has on water. It says the hotter the earth becomes, not only will humans be at risk, but natural resources such as water will be as well. David Chandler, who writes for the MIT News, talks about a device that can remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. He says the device is essentially a large specialized battery that absorbs carbon dioxide from the air or other gas stream passing over its electrodes as it is being charged up, and then releases the gas as it is being discharged. Switching from the idea of heat and the problem that heat or increased carbon emissions has on the environment, let's talk about pollution in the water. So pollution in the water is one of the major problems that needs a solution. Oil spills, for example, are detrimental to the environment, but have little to no solution. As you can see here, this seagull is struggling and is in dire need of help because it's swimming in oil, which you can't swim in because the density of it is too much. It's too great. It's sticky for the bird, so it can't fly away, and it just basically has to walk out of the oil spill. The oil spill, which was caused by humans. Oil is not the only waste to be dumped into the oceans. Plastic and other man-made materials are constantly being littered across America's lakes and oceans. The effect that littering has on animals include choking, indigestion complications, and even death. Alex Belingle, a writer for the Toronto Star, supports that fact when he says the federal government plans to ban harmful single-use plastics, or in other words, harmful plastics that you can only use once. And he continues by saying they plan to ban those single-use plastics across Canada as early as 2021. move that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says will protect the environment for future generations and spur billions of dollars in economic growth. Bolingo continues to write, Trudeau said a major push to reduce plastic pollution is necessary to address a situation where whales and other animals are washing up on beaches around the world with their stomachs full of plastic. So as you can see, this is not just a problem that was being discussed as a theory or theoretically. It's a legitimate problem that is at hand and needs to be solved. Plastic waste and carbon dioxide is not the only problems that are at hand. It's not problems that humans created. It's problems that arise when humans take too much or when they overmine. For instance, humans are often seen exploiting the earth for its resources and riches. The effect that overexploiting has is serious, however. One of the main threats that environmental scientists theorize is about the lack of natural resources for humans in the future. A writer for the Earth Organization talks about human overuse of resources when they say, a third of the food intended for human consumption, or around 1.3 billion tons, is wasted or lost. This is enough to feed 3 billion people. Food waste and loss accounts for 4.4 gigatons of greenhouse gas emissions annually. If it was a country, food waste would be the third highest emitter of greenhouse gases behind China and the US. This fact is insane. To consider that 3 billion people could be fed with the food that is being lost, and that also 4.4 gigatons of greenhouse gas emissions come from the wasted food, so it's 2 detriments just from human error of wasting food. That is insane. But even with all those problems, there are still solutions for the problems such as carbon emissions. Companies such as Tesla Motors have made it a point to center a company that is strictly built around electric cars. Tesla makes all their cars electric so that carbon emissions are not a problem that they have to worry about. James Clark, a writer who advocates for an eco-friendly version of a home sewage treatment plant, says, an example of an eco-friendly sewage treatment plant is the BioCell Quick One Plus, costing as little as 0.10 euros or 0.08 pounds per day. The Quick One Plus oxygenates raw sewage for exactly the length of time required to achieve the appropriate treatment levels. So these little small solutions are very good for the environment. They're good to reduce the amount of greenhouse gases that are being emitted, even if they're as small as the invention of the BioCell Quick One Plus, as we see, and Tesla Motors, creating electric cars. On our second to last slide here, we have a diagram. And in this diagram, we see the four most used, or the 4 energy sources that are contributing to the most greenhouse gas emissions per kilowatt. And right here we see that coal is the number 1 benefactor to that. Biomass or co-firing is number 2. Natural gas and then biomass are 3 and 4. So those are the main problem. Those are the main problem energy sources. In the second category or second tier, we have the good but not amazing energy sources. We have solar PV or utility, solar PV or roof, geothermal, solar concentrated, and hydropower, which all of these energy sources are good, but they're not the future. The future are the last 3 energy sources in nuclear, wind offshore, and wind onshore. Those last 3 energy sources are the legitimate future, as the carbon footprint that it leaves is basically unrecognizable. It's basically nothing, whereas the middle tier still leaves some carbon footprint. In conclusion, now that we are aware that the environment is at risk, it is our responsibility to partake in taking care of it. Thank you so much for lending me your ear today, and until next time, take care. Salami out.